And we're back with Priest, which arguably got the most out of Goblins and Gnomes. So the first card we're going to look at is the upgraded Repair Bot. 5 mana 5/5 mech, rare, with Battle Cry. Give a friendly mech plus 4 health. That is insane.
Yeah, this is a really, really good card. So it's got the 5/5 stats, which are pretty good. You can trade with most 4 and 5 drops. You can run over Belchers, and um, it's pretty solid. The easiest thing to compare this card to is Temple Enforcer,
It just
which gives
feels better than Temple Enforcer by
yeah.
far.
So Temple Enforcer is a 6 mana 6/6 that gives 3 health. This gives plus 4, but it's only to a mech. But the more relevant thing is that the repair bot comes down on turn 5,
And there's
where
also a mech.
the buff is a lot better and easier to get off and more relevant. And a 5/5 for 5 is a lot better than a 6/6 for 6.
True.
So this is a really, really strong card, and might make doing Mech Priest really worth it.
I think it will. Like at the moment, we have Undertaker Priest, which has never been fantastic. It's just been okay as a tempo deck. I think the Mech Priest is looking far more promising because you can play a lot more 3/4s and things that benefit from healing, and you can also play
Mm.
upgraded Repair Bot. And if you hit upgraded Repair Bot on a Mech Yeti or on a just any mech whatsoever, it's ridiculous value.
Yeah, you can get crazy amounts of value. You can buff stuff up and trade. The other thing about this card is it's kind of a very aggressive card in the sense that it's not very good if you don't have the board, and it's going to weaken your hunter matchup a bit if you're not playing Sludge Belcher.
True,
Uh,
because like
but
Sludge Belcher, you can't really fit in the deck anymore because you also have to play Loatheb if you're playing a tempo deck, and also Vojin, which we'll get to, and you can't really run more than 5. You can't really run more than 4 or 5 drops, to be honest.
right, which is a bit of an issue. But at the same time, this is the card that will make Meg Priest, the new Death Rattle Priest.
Yep. And
Wanna,
also, you have access to Shrinkmeister shenanigans with Shadow Madness and things like that to help out your Hunter matchup.
yeah, and also like another thing to bear in mind about this card is it comes down early enough that with the kind of more early game Priest, you need to have the board control early, so you need to play early minions. But the problem is the early minions aren't that ideal for Priest because they're small and so they're likely to die to things before you can heal them. And this kind of makes those early game guys a bit more.
Injured Blade Masters.
Yeah. um, if you have an early like Zombie Chow and Mechwarper or whatever.
Spider
Not
Tank.
Zombie Chow, what am I talking about? Yeah.
Spider
If
Tank
you
becomes a 3/8.
Yeah. Crucially, minions like Spider Tank and Mechanical Yeti already have enough attack that making them bigger is actually good.
Yep, and there's just a ton of mechs you can get. Like, if you get the plus 4 health on a Piloted Shredder, that's kind of brutal.
Yeah, and it might be worth running Piloted Shredder instead of Mech Yeti just for that reason. That's much
Maybe.
better to buff with the Repair Bot. Although
But then
it does
Mech
make it.
Yeti becomes a 4/9,
Yeah, and Mech Yeti is more likely to stick around and still be a mech on your turn
and
than
is
play
less
Repair
vulnerable
Bot.
to
So,
silence.
yeah.
So that's a thing. But anyway, so Upgraded Repair Ball, one of the reasons to run Mech Priest, very powerful card.
Really strong card. You can.
Very good in Arena as well. Now, onto a card which I think is personally the best card in the entire set. Not the most influential. The most influential is probably Mech Warper, but that's because it's neutral. However,
Right.
I honestly think Vojin is the best card in the set. 5 mana, 6/2. Battle Cry, swap health with another minion. Now, funny story about this card. This was part of 4 leaked legendaries, like a week before BlizzCon, that were perfectly themed, and they were leaked, and they looked really, really real, but I actually thought that they were fake
Yeah,
because
because
this is too good.
well, most people thought it was fake because Flame and Fire was a bit weird,
And so was Iron Juggernaut, and
and
so
Iron Juggernaut
was
was a bit
Trade Prince
weird, and Trade
Gallywix,
Prince Gallywix.
and then
There was the
Vojin was
thing with
too
Gallywix.
powerful, and it just
There was
looked.
the thing with Gallywix's coin that we'll get to later, but
Yeah. And Vojin is too powerful, so it just seemed like it was kind of okay, but it just didn't. It looked real, but kind of weirdly real.
uh,
Like, but it
Okay,
it ended up being real. But the point was,
right,
Vojin is absurd. Like, first of
right.
all, it's a on-curve answer to Loatheb that is not a spell. It also punishes anything more than 5 mana.
Um, yeah, you can use it to, but I mean, basically, a lot of the time, this guy is going to be a turn 5 fire elemental, and you're going to swap health with like a sludge belcher or a yeti
Ugh,
or
yeah.
um,
And then kill it with
whatever
your 2/3.
creature, and then get huge amounts of value. You can do the combo with Holy Smite, which is with like a good hard removal, another way
Kill
to deal
anything.
with
Yeah.
big guys, which maybe enables you to cut like a death or something. You know, it's a way to kill a giant while developing a huge
I
minion.
think
That's
this replaced. People were asking like, where do you put this in your deck? And I think you just replace a Shadow of Death. It basically does similar things. Like it's more. It's doesn't do it immediately. However, it can kill more stuff,
yeah. The classic problem with Shadow Word Death is it just didn't develop anything.
and it just sits
So
in your hand for ages
like
sometimes.
the warrior would play a guy, and then you death it and heal yourself because you don't have anything else to do that turn, and then they just play another one.
Yeah.
Um,
Whereas
so yeah,
Vojin is. Ugh.
Vol'jin is a really great card.
Yeah, it's really insane. Not to mention, it's a 5 drop that literally gets stronger the longer the game goes.
Yeah. So it's good on 5. It's good, it's better in the late game as well.
It's good on turn
Um,
5. It's good on turn 10.
it's worth noting there's a kind of tension because you really want to play Holy Smite with Vol'jin. Otherwise,
Kind of, yeah.
you can't reliably remove like a Ragnaros. But if you do, then it's kind of awkward because you also want to run Shadow Word Pain to combo with Shrinkmeister. So well, it'll be interesting to see what kind of mix gets sorted out with that. I mean, I
This
think
is
it's
a
quite late.
This is like really ridiculous in the tempo deck though. Like it's good in every priest deck, but in
Yeah,
the tempo deck running mechs, it
yeah, it gets
fits
a lot.
right in there with Loatheb. You now
Mm.
have two 5 drops that tempo your opponent to death.
Yeah, and it's another way like so you play like a zombie chow or so in in the current Death Rattle Priest you play like a zombie chow early on and it ends up like hitting face a couple of times, then trading uselessly into their huge minion like a Druid of the Claw or whatever.
Yeah.
Whereas now Vol'jin gives you a way to make those early minions a bit more relevant in the mid game as
And
well,
you get a 6/6
and you get a 6/6. Yeah.
for 5 mana.
So you get huge number of swings. I mean, it's worth noting that this card is often pretty awkward against like more aggressive stuff.
It does answer Doomguard though. Like, cause not to mention Priest was not bad against aggro. Like having one card in your
Yeah,
deck that's not absolutely insane against aggro is not that bad.
that's a very good point, right?
It also deals really well with those like taunt walls that you just can't get through sometimes, and it lets you deal with things like high main more easily. And
Um,
also, it still gives you an answer to Loatheb, which is important. It just at its worst, it's at its worst against aggro, and against aggro, it's not that bad. It's not good. It's just not
yeah.
miserably bad. But then against mid range, it's ridiculous, and against control, it's game winning.
Yeah. I mean, this card is really excellent.
Pretty insane, yeah. Also,
An
someone
extraordinary.
didn't was it you that linked this earlier? The Imager thing where someone got a Vojin off a
Oh yeah,
yeah.
they had a loot hoarder and the guy played a Death Lord, so they played a Vol'jin on the Death Lord, got 6/8, and then traded the loot hoarder in and got a Water Elemental.
This was off an
Uh,
unstable portal, by the way. He unstable
yeah,
portaled on turn, what was it, like 2 or 3 or something,
yeah.
and then got Vojin, 2 mana
I mean,
Vojin, kill it, get a 6/8, draw Water Element.
this card is just like another way to think about this card is that it's a like 5 mana 6/8 big game hunter.
It always trades with whatever you switch, by the way,
Yeah.
because 2 life is like. It also makes Ysera really bad against Priest, along with Shrinkmeister and Cabal.
Yeah, it's just yet another way to deal with the minions that Priest couldn't really deal with before. So
Yep,
um,
it's good against everything.
that's a huge deal.
It's kind of insane. Anyway, Vojin, arguably the best card in the entire set.
Yeah, and it's
Villain's
going to give big boost to
Chosen.
Priest.
Yeah, Villain's Chosen. 3 mana. Give a minion +2/+4 and spell damage 1. At first, this was released as one of the first spoilers. We thought it was okay back then, but we weren't really sure how good. But then,
Right.
I understand you've played this in Arena.
Yeah, so the usual reaction to buff cards is that they're not going to be that great because you play the buff card and you kill something, but then you didn't really gain anything because they can just remove the big guy that's now damaged, and you traded two for two, and that's the good situation. Where the bad situation is you don't have anything on the board to Vernon's Chosen at all. But um, part of that is because the currently existing buff cards, like
The
you know,
currently existing bad cards.
yeah, well, I mean they are bad buff cards, like Blessing of Kings, compared to Velen's Chosen. I mean, Velen's Chosen comes down on turn earlier, and the stats are much better distributed. So
Spell power might be relevant because you might get this on turn 4
yeah,
and then just
I mean,
hold
I was
over.
talking about those kind of early minions that you need to play to get the board control becoming a bit irrelevant, and because you can't heal them. But then you can use the Velen's Chosen to make Northshire Cleric or Zombie Chow or whatever random early minion into like Northshire Cleric becomes 3/7,
Yeah, and Zombie Chow becomes
which is a
a
great size.
4/7.
Yeah, Dark Cultist becomes a 5/8, which and then starts eating Yetis and
Like munching on Yetis. The other thing
living
is
to
you can
tell the
heal
tale.
it. You can heal it,
And
which
then
is
yeah,
crazy.
and then it gives you a big damaged minion really early on, a bit like a Circle Ninja Blade Master that you can then start healing and getting value, and it's really really strong.
Yeah, I actually agree completely.
Uh,
In Arena, this is an absolute
so
bomb
yeah,
as
I
a
mean yeah,
buff.
in Arena this is an amazing card. In Constructed, all the same caveats apply. That in Constructed, the game is very very fast paced. You may not be able to get a minion to stay on the board long enough for you to get a Vernon's Chosen off on it, and the value may not be enough when you
It
do,
does
given that
function.
uh, it's much harder in Constructed to get like a really really good trade and just run over a minion
Agreed.
because everything's really sticky.
There is a couple
Um,
things that go in its favor though, which it works late game as well with Organized Soul Priest and Wild Pyromancer and things like that. So you can play it through all stages of the game and it will be good.
yeah, and you can do weird things like use it to proc a Shadow Word Death.
True.
Um,
You can use it. You can like Velen's Chosen, Vojan, Coin, Big Game Hunter. So you know that's a combo randomly. Uh,
and basically, just at whatever stage of the game, it will ensure that you have the biggest minion on the board.
yeah,
If you
it's
already have a minion on the board, which is what
exactly
you want as the priest, because you want to be able to start healing things and getting value.
agreed. Anyway,
Because yeah, that's the central thing about the priest hero power. That if you have the biggest minion on the board, the
it's
priest hero
amazing.
power is the best hero power in the game.
If you don't,
And
it's
if you
bad.
don't have the biggest minion on the board, then priest hero power is completely useless.
Agreed. Anyway, Shadow Boxer, 2 mana, 2/3 mech with no text. Oh, sorry. It's a whenever a minion, no, not minion. Whenever a character is healed, deal 1 damage to a random enemy. So in other words, it's a 2 mana, 2/3 mech, and it is playable.
Yeah, I mean, this effect isn't really that bad.
It's just not
Like
going to happen much.
obviously, it's somewhat you know, so you can compare this to Knife Juggler. Knife Juggler is a 3/2 instead of a 2/3, which makes a big difference. But
Being
it's pretty obvious
proactive
that
instead of.
Knife Juggler is quite a lot easier to trigger than this. I mean, you can imagine if Northshire Cleric said every time you summon a minion, draw a card, it would be a lot better.
Yeah.
Um, but so whenever a character's healed, deal 1 damage to a random enemy. Those juggles are going to be, um, potentially decent. You can imagine getting some damage on like a Circle of Healing or
I mean, you can Holy
um,
Nova and it does a bunch of extra damage.
yeah, that's true. And
Nice, nice.
but yeah, crucially, it is just a 2 mana 3/2
What's
mech.
going to happen
Uh,
with this is that there's going to be random times when the upside matters. However, you're playing it because it is a 2 mana 2/3 mech that goes along with your mech warper to ensure that you have 4 stable, good 2 drops that you can use your hero power with fairly efficiently.
yeah, absolutely.
That's the real reason why you're playing it, and it will be good and it will be played. Why? Because it's a mech and it's got good stats. We talked about this with Snow Chugger, especially. It's like good stats, you'll play it. Same in Arena, good stats, you'll play it. All right, on to Shrinkmeister, one of the other
Oh, that's gonna.
absolutely insane priest cards. 2 mana, 3/2, common, battle cry, give a minion -2 attack this turn. Now, I will leave it up to you to explain why this is completely absurd if people haven't got it.
So on its own, this card is pretty good. It's a 2 mana 3/2, and then you can shrink an opponent's minion and then kill it with one of your minions, and your minion takes less damage and might survive and get ahead on the
Yay.
board in the early
And then you
game,
can heal again.
and then you can heal it. Or Alternatively, you can make a Yeti into a 2/5 and then Shadow Word Paint it, thus removing the main problem holding back Priest from being the best deck in the game. Um,
And you can Shadow Madness Sylvanas.
yeah, you can.
That's
Or
better.
on turn 8, you can combo with the Cabal Shadow Priest to steal, one of those annoying Cans or Yseras that may have plagued you in the past as a priest. Um, this card is really, really strong. One problem the priest is going to have is that suppose you want to play like Death Rattle or Mech Priest, um,
Fitting all the
you
cards in.
you desperately still want to play Shrinkmeister and Dark Cultist and all these good neutral cards, but you also have to fit in enough mechs, and it's quite difficult.
It's
But,
gonna be so hard to pull off Priest. The funny thing is, with Hunter, it was like split into 4 different directions, and none of the decks were really complete. With
yeah,
Priest, it's like
everything is so good that
it's just gonna fissure off into a million things, and then eventually we'll figure out which one is the best of the good decks.
yeah, and like how much of the generically good stuff you can incorporate and how full mech to go and so yeah, Shrinkmeister
Never go full Northshire, but you can go full Mech Warper.
Shrinkmeister just does a lot of things that Priest needed, and um, it's a really really strong card.
It also means that you can run double Pain, one Death, and then one Vojin, and you've got both sides
Yeah,
covered.
and it just means that Shadow Word Pain is such a great card when you get it off, and
It's way
uh,
better now. It kills Mech Warper, it kills Spider Tank.
yeah, and
Like,
you can Spider Tank, you can kill Orkanai, you can kill the Senjins, you can kill, and when you do that, it wins games.
mhm.
Um, and the only problem was that sometimes it was just weak, and like against Druid, you didn't have any really good pain targets.
But with Shrinkmeister, you can
But
use
with
it on.
Shrinkmeister, it just gives that the pain that extra utility that needs to be a really great card and worth playing in Priest, which
It
is
becomes the pain you need as opposed to the pain you deserved. So you can use it on
yeah,
Druid of the Claw, and you can use it on, like, basically it puts the threshold up to 5, which is actually pretty relevant. And the same with Shadow Madness, which means you can Shadow Madness very, very fair things like Cairn and Sylvanas, and like if you get a Shadow Madness on a Sylvanas, you basically win.
yeah. In that situation, I mean, I doubt that situation would be very common and constructed in the case that they also have some 5 attack minion on the board that you can run the Sylvanas into and steal. But
But you can damage it before you do the combo.
this is true. Yeah, I mean, there'll be some awesome combos with this.
You can
Priest is really spoiled for choice of amazing cards to play in this
Priest
expansion.
over the last 2 sets, like before Naxxramas, they were terrible, and they've just been ridiculously spoiled over the last 2 sets.
Yeah.
They've gone
Um,
from the worst class in the game to probably the best.
well, we'll see, but yeah, definitely.
All right, so in my opinion, that is the last of the really good Priest cards. You
Oh
know,
yeah.
minus the other 4.
3.
Uh, onto the Light of the Naru. 1 mana, restore 3 health if the target is still damaged. Summon a Light Spawn, Light Warden. Summon a Light Spawn would be ridiculous. Summon a Light Warden. I think this is really bad.
I don't think this card is that bad. I don't think it's like on the edge of being constructed playable, but I think with all the amazing options that the priest has, it won't quite fit. But
Like,
there's enough things that you can do with this card, so it might be kind of situational. But you can use it to heal a big guy. You can use it as like a pseudo circle of healing on your injured Blade Master that costs 1 mana, but you get a free Light Warden out of the deal, which is pretty good.
well, you say free,
Um,
you're paying 1 mana for the Light Warden, and then like 0 mana for a worse Circle of Healing.
yeah, but I would quite happily pay 1 mana for a Light Warden if I didn't have to pay a card.
Yeah, but then you still have to pay a card for the heal.
Yeah, which you would be happy to do when you play
Well,
Circle of Healing.
yeah, kind of, but Circle of Healing heals everything.
And you also have the option of playing it with Orkanai Soul Priest.
Okay, that's a bad move, because that works in my favor, because Circle of Healing is way stronger.
Okay, yeah. But it's still a 1 mana
Alright,
Dark Bomb that gets you a 1/2,
yeah, kind of,
which
but
is
then you need
really, really
Orkney on the
good.
board. And it has to survive
No, it doesn't
to
have to
get the
survive.
1/2. Because
If
it
it
can't be
dies,
damaged if it's
if
dead.
it dies, it's at like 0 health, which still counts as damaged, and then
No,
it
it
dies.
doesn't. It's dead.
Yeah, it does. It's
Did
it's
you try
confirmed.
this?
It's definitely confirmed to work this way. 100% sure.
Really?
Yeah.
Have you actually checked?
It's 100% confirmed. I've seen videos of it.
All right, so I'm just checking because that is going in the thing with other weird wording that doesn't really follow their own logic. But anyway, it's like how can
Yeah.
something be damaged if it's dead?
So
But whatever.
there's enough interactions of this very situational card that it might be okay in
Oh, this
Priest.
sometimes it's just way worse than Power Word Shield.
Yeah, I mean, you're so spoilt for choice that it probably won't make the cut, but it's not a bad card by any means.
I love how when we were talking about Tree of Life, it's like worst cards ever, and then for Priest, it's like, all right, Light of the Naru, not good because other cards are better.
Yeah,
It's just like,
that might end up being its fate.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Shadow Bomber, 1 mana 2/1 epic. Battlecry, deal 3 damage to both heroes. This card is not good because it's in Priest.
Yeah, so this card lets you run like 4 leper gnomes, except it does 1 more damage, which is
Yay!
pretty sweet.
But then
Um,
it doesn't have Death Rattle.
and Priest has like a bunch of cool aggro cards, like Mind
Mind
Blast, which
Blast.
is the most efficient face damage in the game. And if it was a hunter card, then it would be completely ludicrous.
If it was a, imagine that in Miracle Rogue.
Yeah. But the problem with Shadow Bomber is that Priest is uniquely poorly set up to do aggro because the hero power is completely useless for aggro. It, the hero power is suited to like grinding out the value over time, and you just there isn't like the required critical mass of good Priest like face damage cards
To compensate for the hero power.
to compensate for the hero power being
It's
good.
a
I
bit
mean, like
like
you can,
Aggro Warrior. It's always had problems getting there because the hero power
yeah.
literally does nothing.
And Aggro Warrior has a lot more going for it.
It
Like,
does because it has all the weapons.
it has all the weapons, which do huge amounts of face damage really efficiently.
Yep.
And yeah, Priest doesn't have reliable card draw. It's
Like I saw someone go. It's like, all right, so this is the curve. Shadow Bomber, turn 2, like Light of the Naru, gain a 1/2, and I'm like, you didn't think that through very well, did you? Oh, there was another one which was like logic with Shadow Bomber. It's like turn 2 hero power is useful, and then someone responded with like, if you hero power on turn 2, just because it does something does not make it good.
yeah. Oh wow, you armored up on turn 2. Great value.
Yay. Yeah, it's
Uh,
just like Shadow Bomber doesn't really work in this class. Like the funny thing is, you got Shadow Bomber, and it's like, oh, there might be an aggro deck, and then you look at the rest of the cards, and it's like upgraded Repair Bot, Shadow Boxer, Shrinkmeister, Vojin, Velen's Chill. It just seems outmatched by
yeah, I mean,
the
I
other
still
typical
dream of
cards,
one day there existing a really good Priest aggro deck,
and it
but
will
I
be
think
next to the Mill deck.
yeah, it's just waiting to emerge from its chrysalis. But I think
It will eventually
uh,
get there. If they
it
add
won't
one
be.
card per set that works in that deck, we'll get it by 2018.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, and eventually we'll be able to play just like 30 Mind Blasts. And,
Like every card does similar things. You have like Shadow Bombers. It's just like
well,
your deck is uniform.
Mind Blast, Face Blast, Dome Blast. Uh,
There's like 1 mana deal 3, 2 mana deal 5, 3 mana deal 8 or something.
yeah, Mindless Blast.
Mindless Blast is like 5 mana deal 10. It's just like,
Um,
he's so stupid, but
so anyway, yeah,
yeah, but Shadow Bomber, not fantastic now probably, but maybe in the future. Light Bomb, the last of the Priest cards. Now Light Bomb is 6 mana, deal damage to each minion equal to its attack. The funny thing about Light Bomb is right now, it would be pretty good. Post GVG, it is miserably bad. It doesn't kill anything.
yeah. The problem is that even now, most minions have um, health that's greater than their attack because those are the best minions,
And it's
and
going up in proportion.
yeah, that's going up in proportion. Lots of minions are sticky and have death rattles, which we've talked about before
Yeah.
as being a problem. This card is very expensive. It costs 6 mana.
What's even funnier is that like the list of things this kills are like Malorn, which won't see play, and like it kills Loatheb. Wait, no, it doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, it hits your own minions, which is a bit awkward.
Yeah, I did get the privilege of actually picking this in Arena, and it was a monster bomb. It was ridiculous. Like, it wiped so many boards. For me, it was just insane. And I even played it with Force Tank on the board on my side, and the Force Tank, the shield just popped, and it wiped his board
Yeah,
completely.
I mean, the thing is, it's such a symmetrical effect, and
It's like a
Like,
twisting nether type effect, but
yeah, um,
it's more like poison
but
seeds.
worse. Yeah, and you're going to leave your opponent with just a bunch of small stuff.
Anyway, probably the worst. Nah, it's not the worst priest card. It's like the last three priest
It's the
cards are
worst
the
card.
worst ones.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably the worst card in the set. For priest.
For a priest, maybe,
Like
yeah.
it's
It
close to being good, but you can't have a 6 mana spell
that
that
does
doesn't
that. It
that
it's
isn't
like
always useful and great when you play it. Like
it's kind of like we just saw 8 priest cards. 5 of them are absurd, and the other 3 are like
reasonably
okay,
useful.
and
Yeah.
we're complaining about them. That's how spoiled priest is.
Yep.
That's just perspective. But anyway, so that about does it for the priest. Personally, I think that they got the most out of the set and are probably looking to be the strongest class coming out.
Yeah. I mean, we always have to wait and see how the meta evolves, but yeah, priest is getting a lot of cool stuff, so that's definitely the deck to watch.
But anyway, thanks for watching the priest segment. We will see you in the next class.